face of all the tumultuous, frightening, and unsolvable situations around the world, there is one colossal factor that's pretty much going to just clear the deck. Or another way to put it is, it's going to cancel a lot of people's plans. We're talking about the Destroyer, the Nemesis, the visitation of Planet X and Co. So, we have the paramount question. Is it real? Or is it all just a myth and a wild goose chase? In this video, we'll document some things that demonstrate there are additional celestial objects in our solar system. Let's observe a situation that occurred on the 4th of May, 2020. So here we are at Durango, Mexico, about 8:05 in the evening, and we're facing east. Where is the sun right now in this picture? It's behind us in the west, as sunset will be in about 25 minutes at precisely 8:29 p.m. This shadow here enables us to see right where the sun is, and as the sun moves closer down to the horizon, this shadow grows accordingly, of course. At any rate, we should not be seeing any bright celestial light source here. But advancing another 15 or 20 minutes later, we have an unidentified celestial light source coming into view. So, what is it? It's a component of the Nemesis Planetary system that has traveled back here into our space. Now, as for the authoritative establishment, if we do hear anything about it from them, we get rhetoric like, "Oh, that's from the Sahara dust storm that we've been hearing about on the news. Quite common, really, but it only happens when a layer of ice crystals gets compressed between two layers of hot and cold air, and that only happens rarely." Oh, well, that was interesting. So, moving on to the next thing. Did you hear about those giant rats that gnawed their way into Barbra Streisand's wine cellar yesterday? Is that it? Is that how we're going to consume the event that just played out across our view screens? Well, actually, to a large degree, yeah, that is about the amount of it. We see these things with our own eyes, but it just doesn't seem to register. It doesn't sink in. Let's just frame up a few key factors here from those points we established already. Number one, the time of our view is in the evening. And to be precise, it's 8:26 right now. Number two, the direction we're looking is east. And number three, according to the known layout and composition of our solar system, well, there's nothing that should be showing up in our view like that. Judging from what we see in the reactions, or lack thereof, of the mainstream media, as well as from individuals and people generally, it's clear that we are just not realizing how significant this is, along with the many other occurrences of the same kind. Let's move on to observe a few more situations. Mexico City, 3rd of June, 2020. The time display shows that it's just about 6 o'clock in the evening. And the reason we're here is that in about 2 hours from now, there is an event that demonstrates that there is something way out of order here in our space. First thing, as usual, is to get clear on what direction we're facing. East-northeast. Now notice these shadows down here. They're quite useful because although the sun is behind us here, we can see right where the sun is by observing the shadows cast from it. This demonstrates vividly how the sun is behind us, heading towards sunset. And having a clear, solid perception here is essential toward understanding this. Consider it this way. A person looking at this picture could easily presume that it's the sun up there radiating through the clouds. But we just watched as the sun traveled down toward the opposite horizon. How is it that in the eastern sky in the evening we can have a celestial object of sufficient magnitude that it can be mistaken for the sun? I'll rewind this footage back a few minutes and then just let it play uninterrupted. So here we are with a situation that just doesn't make sense, and it leaves us somewhat going in circles because, as noted already, according to the standard model of our system, there's nothing like that should be there. In this discussion so far, we've looked at a couple different examples of seeing a prominent celestial light source shining in the eastern sky in the evening. And as I've commented already, one common challenge that confronts us here is being able to realize the potential significance of this situation. Our tendency is just to see it and react with something like, "Wow, that's weird," and move on, not quite grasping that what we're seeing is an additional celestial body in our solar system, a situation that carries major implications. And as far as the news on television and radio and everywhere else, not a word. Nobody notices, nobody says a thing. But if David Beckham gets a new pair of shoes, whoa, now that's big news. Another category of observation that I find compelling is that there are times when we can actually see a spherical body, a planetary body. I captured an example of this that occurred on July 10th, 2020, as seen from Cancun. So here we have a sunset in progress, and some people will agree that it just doesn't look right. I mean, here is where the sun is. So what's this intense arm of light stretching over to the left? Well, these days, abnormalities like this are quite common, occurring regularly with sunrises, sunsets, all around the world and all the time, to the extent that people in general have become more and more desensitized to seeing these things, and the average response when pointing this out to people is, "What do you mean? That's just normal." During this footage from Cancun, you might have noticed those flashes or abrupt surges in the light. This is one of the results of the Nemesis system being here. A moment ago, I mentioned that sometimes we can actually see a spherical object or planetary body, an example of which is coming to view here. While it looks as though we can see, incredibly, a planet right there, the fact is, academically, it's completely implausible. We'll come back to that point in a minute. Considering the main focus of the study in this video, well, this picture in front of us certainly qualifies as impressive, and even perhaps alarming in terms of the question, is that an actual celestial body, a planet? The object is sufficiently impressive that some people might naturally presume that there must be some degree of image enhancement on it, perhaps adjustments to the brightness, contrast, or gamma level. And to this assumption, I want to establish clearly that apart from increasing the playback speed, there are no enhancements or image manipulations that have been done. What we have here is simply the raw image and video as captured by the webcam equipment. Knowing that this image is not manipulated or enhanced in any way, the first reaction and explanation that comes to my mind is, wow. Now this does present a problem, because while we can see a spherical object there, and the direction of our study would suggest that it's a planet, at the same time there are a multitude of reasons why that just cannot be. One such argument that derails the suggestion that that could be a planet is the principle of gravitational dynamics and influence. We see this powerfully demonstrated by the effect the moon has on our oceans and earth tides. Remember, not only do the oceans rise and recede, but also the solid ground flexes by up to about 50 centimeters under the daily revolutions of the moon. In other words, if there was an extra planet in our solar system that was near enough and huge enough to be that one right there, well, we'd be having tidal waves, tsunami, horrendous gale force hurricane windstorms, and generally an horrific assortment of geophysical reactions. I've just now described one of the factors showing that it would be absurd to suppose that that round-looking object is a planet. But now here's the twisted complication of this. Somehow, in spite of all that we think we know about how everything works, that thing we're looking at is in fact a planet. I'm not saying maybe it could be a planetary body. I'm saying absolutely it is. Of course, this all becomes rather confusing because a moment ago I mentioned that there's a list of reasons why there's no way that that could be a planet. But now I'm saying the opposite. So which one is it? Well, actually, both statements apply because it is correct that, according to all we know, there just wouldn't be an anomalous planet there like that. And yet, there it is. So, we are confronted here by a very mean paradox. It's a challenging task to... Hold on a minute, let me get this call. Hello? Mom. Hello. Right. No, I didn't say a mean pair of dogs. The word is paradox. That's what we've got. And no, it's not a dog. It's not two dogs. The word is paradox. Mom, it's not a pair of dogs. The word is paradox. Paradox.
I'm just an old lady,
Mom,
and I can't
is your
keep
hearing
up with
aid
all
working?
These things.
When did you last change the battery in your hearing
I'm just
aid?
an old lady, and I
Look,
can't keep
I'll
up.
come by in the morning and check it for you. Mom? Hello? Hello? She hung up. She hung up. I'll phone her back later. Okay, better clarify. I was just joking there. Kind of took off on the idea of paradox. At any rate, getting back to serious business, here's a page from Oxford Dictionary in which the definitions for the word paradox are perfect in describing the situation that we've got right here. Paradox, a seemingly absurd or contradictory statement or proposition which when investigated may prove to be well-founded or true. The second example of the definition given here is again helpful in putting into words the situation. Paradox. A statement or proposition which, despite sound reasoning from acceptable premises, leads to a conclusion that seems logically unacceptable or self-contradictory. One important detail worth noticing is this. I'm referring to the perimeter line of the round object. Notice at the top how the circular shape continues through that thin streak of illumination. The point being, there is a generally well-defined round impression there. And of course, when trying to determine whether it's an actual sphere or just a random appearance, well, consider the odds of a coincidental cloud or whatever holding form for an extended period of a specific 360-degree round. Turning now to another example, we have an event from about 2 months ago, July 2nd, 2020. The time of day in this frame is about 6:45 a.m. So it's early morning in July, and the direction we're facing is east. Everything looks normal, I guess, because this is the right time of day and the right direction for sunrise. So now we'll back up a couple minutes and review the footage to get an overview of what transpires here. So in this frame we're at 6:30 a.m. Skipping forward, it appears that we have sunrise in progress. But as we come up to about 5 minutes past 7, a question comes up. In the frames leading up to this, we've been tracking this light as the sunrise. But now we understand the sun wasn't even up yet. So what was that light that we thought was the sunrise? Let's check to see what the precise time of sunrise is supposed to be. Here we have the data for July 2nd, 2020, location Mexico City, and sunrise is at 7:02. So, looking in the footage for the 7:02 snapshot, we find the sun coming over the horizon there, right on schedule. So, what is that other light source there? We've returned again to the 6:30 a.m. time point with the added perspective that the sun does not appear above the horizon until 7:02. Let's review again the images leading up to that point. Consider the extraordinary situation that hangs in our view here. I mean, the event going on right there is off the rails with regard to the established model of the solar system. And there we have it. The sun is now up, which results in 2 celestial lights in the morning sky. Now there is actually another astounding detail right in front of our nose here. But for the moment, let's bring this discussion to a close so that we can finalize and assimilate some of the remarkable data that we've covered thus far. We'll finish this discussion with a parting glimpse of two of the events that we've covered. We do this not to just look at the picture again, but to consider and observe, and perhaps realize a little better the reality of this. One detail that we've noted earlier is the erratic behavior of the light, the sudden spikes or surges in the light intensity. So we have the question, what is causing this action? Thus, we have to ask, where is the sun in this picture? The answer is, here. In other words, the sun is not even in this picture. Sunset for this date and location was 1932, or 32 minutes past 7. And from that point on, the sun has been below the horizon. So, what's all this light? Why is it surging like that? Indeed, what is surging like that? Because, as we've noted, all of this light is not the sun.